All right, everyone, take two. And I'm looking a little potato canny right now. Hold on, let's do something real quick. Does that help? A little bit. So take two. Now, I say take two because I got interrupted when recording the first reaction to this, so I've already seen the rundown analysis. I'll still do it again and kind of just commentate as I did a little bit in the original. I did not watch the full fight, so I still don't know who wins. So with that said, let's get into it. The Ant-Man, Hank Pym versus the Atom. Now,
Ant-Man, Marvel's founding member of the Avengers.
The Atom, DC's legendary mighty might.
Good things come in small packages.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
We're just trying to get these out of the way.
He's Wiz my boomstick.
And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win a death battle. Did you know that ants can lift 50 times their own body weight? That'd be like if you lifted a car straight over your head.
I did, thanks to my Fun Fact of the Day calendar. Also, Hawaiian pizza was invented in Canada yesterday.
Well, I bet your calendar didn't tell you that Dr. Henry Pym, aka Hank, was considered a genius at a very early age. By 3 years old, doctors declared that he was smarter than both his parents combined.
He eventually majored in biochemistry and became one of the most successful scientists in his field. He had big ideas about shrinking the size of cargo to reduce shipping costs. Logistics.
All of which made him a laughingstock in the scientific community and sparked a long-lasting insecurity and need to prove himself.
But he did it! He developed a working serum! He went from laughingstock to Christmas stocking! The much better stuck, right behind Bean and Live.
So, naturally, he tested the serum on himself, like any self-respecting scientist would, and shrank down to the size of an ant.
And just when things started going south, a sweet little ant, let's call her Aunt Hathaway, swooped in and led Hank safely back to his lab where he could return to full size.
Hank then harnessed the serum and became the superhero Ant-Man. Along with his new identity came a fascination in entomology, which makes total sense. Ants are fascinating.
Did you know that ants can talk to each other in a bunch of different ways? Through touch, sound, or even sharing information by barfing at each other.
It's actually called trophallaxis, and they're not barfing, per se. It's more like passing food mouth to mouth.
Gross! Hank figured out how to communicate with his new pets. Not by barfing, but by creating a cybernetic helmet that mirrors an ant's antenna. And he's even developed genuine relationships with some ants, like Ulysses S. Ant here.
But he didn't stop there. Hank developed a lot of amazing tech like a stinger pistol that focuses his bioenergy into a stun beam, and image-inducing camouflage to mask himself as an ant. It worked so well it fooled Reed Richards, the smartest guy on the planet.
He also built a suit that runs on that nifty serum he made back in his lab. It lets him shrink thanks to the newly discovered Pym particles, named after himself.
In a lovely raspberry.
And the Pym particle is the key to unlocking the fundamental constants of the quantum mechanics at play here.
Indeed.
They enable you to decrease the distance between atoms. However, in order to do that, he'd have to change the Bohr radius, the ratio of electron mass to the distance the electrons orbit an atom's nucleus.
Of course. Like how when you make a bagel pizza, you can't fit the whole pizza on the bagel. Believe me, I've tried. It's too small. You just gotta put less on.
Sure, Boomstick. So the Pym particles are actually displacing mass to an alternate dimension in order to maintain that ratio.
Oh, it's like having a second bagel to put the rest of your pizza on. I get it.
But if that were true, he shouldn't be able to punch with full-size strength if he has less mass.
And he's definitely lighter, because otherwise he'd crush the sweet ants he rides, like Vincent Van Gogh here.
His mass is being replaced with massless neutrinos, but that doesn't adequately explain how he can have less mass and seemingly more mass at the same time.
Sure it does, Wiz. Trust him and his particles. Look at the guy. He's explaining the whole thing while wearing a lab coat. What's more trustworthy than that? You're the exception.
You think you understand this?
Oh, of course. He's small but strong. You said something about a boar, so I guess you wanted ham on that pizza, but I already made the pizza.
Will you take that coat off?
No.
Regardless, there is virtually no limit to Hank's ability to shrink. He can go beyond subatomic, down to the underspace, a plane of existence below all realities in the Marvel universe.
And Hank has literally changed his biology. He's rewritten his own chemical makeup to prevent anyone else from changing his size. And he's used Pym particles so much, he's now got an energy field around him that lets him change the size of people or objects on the fly.
I didn't even know he had that.
Or by straight up firing Pym particles in the air.
He's never shy about using them either. He eventually supplied his wife, Janet Van Dyne, with some Pym tech to become the Wasp, his partner in crime fighting.
The two ended up rubbing shoulders with A-listers like Thor, Iron Man, and the Hulk to take down Loki. Ant-Man and the Wasp were actually the ones that captured him and pitched the idea of forming the Avengers.
Unfortunately, Hank's insecurities started to creep back in, and he felt that if he wanted to keep up with the big heroes, he was going to have to think bigger.
Enter a bunch of those Pym-powered alter egos like Yellow Jacket and Giant Man, where he can grow anywhere from 12 feet tall to so big he can enter the overspace, the polar opposite of the underspace.
There he met Eternity, who called him Earth's Scientist Supreme. Something he won't let you forget.
Hank pushed himself to these insane heights, even though he knew the strain on his body could be fatal.
But he simply didn't care and kept pushing himself.
For science?
Thus, his greatest and worst creation was born. Ultron.
Yep, all the Tin Man Tron was created
by
by Hank,
I knew
not
that
Tony
was
like the movies.
But
the mass murder butt thing turned out pretty much the same. Big swing and a miss there.
The fallout from Ultron left Hank in a bad place, to say the least.
And,
his guilt made him feel like an utter failure, and that his best work was behind him. This led Hank to do unspeakable things.
My best work is behind me,
A real low-life move. And even though poor mental health doesn't excuse this behavior, it was clear that Hank needed help. He suffered multiple mental breakdowns, endured the physical toll of the Pym particles, and had bipolar disorder that went undiagnosed for years.
So Hank finally did the best thing he could. He acknowledged his problems, got the help he needed, and committed to self-improvement.
Leanna Lynn relies on Spectrum Business to keep her shop connected.
I don't have an ad blocker. I don't pay for the extra tier. I'm just free on YouTube. So long story short, Hank, first off, is more powerful than I ever gave him credit for. And is still a badass
Hank
guy.
slowly started making things right. He rebuilt the West Coast Avengers, gave Scott Lang his blessing to become the second Ant-Man, and finally defeated Ultron.
He created a backdoor Trojan infiltration code to defeat Ultron that was so advanced, it went on to replicate and evolve all on its own to create a new species made up of artificial intelligence.
They don't call him the god of modern AI for nothing. Hank has showed over and over again that he's an integral part of the Marvel Universe.
Not just by ways of his scientific contributions or victories in battle, but by proving that heroes come in all shapes and sizes.
He grew up in the Northeast, studied physics at Ivy University, and did everything Mama and Papa Palmer told him to do. Probably.
Everything was pretty typical for Ray until one fateful night when he took a walk to take his mind off a frustrating experiment and saw a meteor fall from the sky.
He ran off to the crash and found himself a life-changing piece of a white dwarf star, and immediately started messing around with it. Who wouldn't?
He discovered that he could focus ultraviolet rays through it and shrink inanimate objects. There was just one problem. When he shrunk things, they exploded. Every time.
I do not see the problem. Sounds like he found a foolproof way of blowing stuff up.
Logically, this doesn't make any sense.
Ray was determined to figure out how to shrink objects without blowing them up.
But
first, he went on a hike with his major club. And as a fellow scientist, I have to question his priorities.
But hey, it seems to work for him. I support it. Different hikes for different mics, am I right?
While in a cave, the ceiling suddenly collapsed, trapping everyone inside. After searching high and low for another exit, Ray found a small opening and had an idea. He could try to shrink himself down and get help, even if it meant he might explode before he got the chance.
But he didn't explode. I hope this story has a happy ending at least.
Perplexed, Ray determined there must have been something special about him that made him uniquely immune to the explosive fate.
Of course,
something super scientifically convenient that we never get any more information on.
So he got to work and created himself a suit to harness the power of the white dwarf star and became the Atom!
Atom uses the white dwarf fragment to decrease his size while having control over his density, which makes a lot of sense considering that white dwarfs have the mass of a star, like the sun, but their volume is more like the Earth's, making them among the densest objects in space.
Just a teaspoon of the stuff could weigh up to 100 tons. That's one strong spoon.
When Adam shrinks and shifts his weight, he's actually sending his extra mass to a dimension called the mass zone,
where Adam could maybe live forever. At one point, Ray's apprentice, Ryan Choi, was murdered by Deathstroke, but willed some of his mass to the mass zone and was able to survive in that dimension. So these guys can potentially cheat death, but would be stuck there without any outside help.
But from one scientist to another, what's most impressive is Ray's creation of the bio belt. That's what allows Adam to use the power of the white dwarf and shrink while maintaining any weight, from immaterial to his full 180 pounds. There's even been times where it's stated that he was able to become almost as dense as a white dwarf star itself for a few seconds.
The belt is also how he can travel through phone lines or through the air, on currents or light beams. Over time, Ray has spread out the white dwarf power to other parts of his suit, and now the bio belt acts as a utility belt for his shrunken weapons and tech. It also prevents his size or mass from being altered by any outside forces.
And while he can only increase his size back to his natural 6 feet in height, his ability to shrink is near limitless. He can travel between subatomic space to the microverse, the foundation of all reality in the DC universe, where atoms become the size of planets.
Typically, he can increase back to his normal size with such force he can smash through diamonds. So if Adam increases his size too much while still within the microverse, he could blow up the entire fabric of reality from the inside out.
Shrinking down to that size means that he can shrink small enough to rearrange atoms themselves.
Now, Ray can take individual molecules and rapidly expand them to cook up a small nuclear blast with the palm of his hand. Ray Palmer! I just got that.
He also once disarmed a bomb by rearranging its atoms. At that size, he can move at the velocity of light. So fast and so randomly, he basically acted as a barrier between any and all possible atom combinations. But come on, there's no scientific explanation here for him to have superhuman senses or awareness to comprehend being everywhere at the same time.
It makes total sense. If you're small enough, you can fit in almost everything, everywhere, all at once. Like how you can fit an entire pizza into a calzone, and then you have a whole pizza everywhere inside the calzone. Man, I get it. Science is pizza.
No, science is all I have. Why are you doing this to me?
On top of all of Ray's amazing inventions and abilities, he's also got some more classic weapons, like a laser blaster and a frickin' sword he used to fight a giant crocodile. Relative to his size.
That was when Ray was believed to be dead, but was actually just stuck at 6 inches tall and stranded in the Amazon rainforest, where he encountered an alien race known as the Catarthans.
And get this, he ended up leading a rebellion against their tyrant king, and became the ruler of all the Kardashians.
And his heroism didn't stop there. The Atom was a very well-respected hero, and was even asked to join the Justice League of America shortly after it was formed.
He fought alongside Batman and his best bud, Hawkman. And you don't fight with those guys without picking up a thing or two.
Impressive combat skills aside, Adam's greatest contribution to the legendary team was always his incredible mind.
He once created kryptonite inside of Superman by realizing that if he gathered up enough Kryptonian protons, they would eventually become radioactive.
While stranded in limbo, Adam realized that if the Flash sped up the rate of a nuclear reaction's stellar evolution to exhaust its core, they could turn a fire demon into a black hole and use it as a wormhole to get back to Earth.
He's a brilliant, hard-working, and determined scientist that never stops working on a problem until he's found a solution. I mean, if I figured out how to blow stuff up as well as he did, I would have stopped right there. I'm the hero that blows stuff up. Wouldn't even need to change my name.
Ray Palmer lived the dream, going from research scientist to legendary superhero. He picked up the pieces presented to him and built something greater than the sum of its parts.
Who knew this tiny titan with massive brains would have just as much brawn to back it up?
All right, then.
This episode of Deathbattle is sponsored.
Let's just get over to the actual battle itself here real quick. So, again, revisiting that, my money is still on Hank. Adam can do a couple things that I didn't know he could do, and specifically things Hank can't do. Like, just as far as I know, Hank can't rearrange atoms. But maybe he can, and I missed that part. There is the whole he moves at light and thinks at the speed of light the movement thing I'm a little iffy on. The thinking thing, like when the hell did they say you could think at light speed? The Flash can think way faster than that, so scaling. They're probably comparable in physical stats. But again, we got Hank, you can't forcibly shrink Hank. So I don't think the whole changing Hank's atoms around is going to do anything. Hank, you can just throw pin particles and affect Adam even more. And I think that might be a big factor. Hank can expand things beyond their natural size, whereas the Atom can't. He can go all the way to the outerverse and below the microverse, but he can also make things larger just naturally. And I don't know if the Atom would survive that, because he can't go past a certain limit. And if that biobelt's broken, well then, that could be a bit of a problem. So let's see who's going to win. I'm still going Hank. Let's see what happens.
Time for a death battle!
Alrighty then. I did see this part. This is where I like how
you should pick on someone your own size.
I like how Hank noticed that.
Relatively speaking.
How did you do this? It's laced with a particle I've never seen before.
They're called Pym particles. And I'm Hank Pym, Scientist Supreme. You should have knocked.
You know, this seems a little forced, but it makes sense. That's how this fight was fought. Hank probably wouldn't get 2 shits. He was not going to get into my lab.
You're using pieces of a white dwarf star? That's cute.
Everything we needed already existed. You just needed to be smart enough to put the pieces together. Scientist Supreme?
Yeah, I like a little bit of the real nice knot. I'm liking a little bit of the realistic background with the...
that at any given moment, there are about 2.5 million ants under your feet?
I mean, that makes sense, but why are you bringing that up right now?
Okay, I'm digging this. This is a lot of fun. That's a little skanky frisbee.
Took you long enough. Okay, let's try this.
So the pin particles didn't work on the app. What's happening?
I'll hack his belt. You lay low and let me know what you find.
Huh? They're queen.
Nice try.
This is already better than Ant-Man 3 than Ant-Man 3 was.
If I search every electron path in his gun and study their probability wave functions, I just might be able to!
Yeah, the microverse. Ooh! I like how they're just growing spit.
What's happening? He must be reaching his limit. If we don't get out of here quick, he's gonna destroy all of reality. Now, my pets!
That out.
You have your tricks and your tools, but I created something beyond the limits of human existence. I operate on a scale you can't even comprehend.
The outer space.
How?
You can't be afraid to think big.
Uh-oh. Holy! Oh my god!
KO!
I called it!
Ant-Man and Adam both had many answers to each other's abilities and arsenals. Both were able to store various weapons at a shrunken state.
You know,
both were trained in judo, and they both could obviously keep up with each other.
Color coding for the plus and minuses a little bit. Okay, so Hank was smarter, stronger, and more durable. Powers come from his body's naturally, and much larger arsenal. They have a little equal greater than. Can arguably shrink smaller at worst stalemates. And they're equal in speed. Adam, though, had the ability to control the density of his size, can affect the probability of some of Hank's weapons, cannot grow larger than his natural height was a big con. Biobelt is susceptible to hacking. Less examples of shrinking to sizes Hank has attained, and similar in speed.
His ability to shrink at will.
Yep.
Though there was one small thing Adam couldn't answer to. The ants!
Yep.
Hank's bond with his pets lent him some small advantages, and Ray just didn't have enough anti-ant tools in his bio build.
But in Adam's defense, the fact that he could punch with a fist packed with all of his mass meant that a close-up fight while small would leave Hank with few options since he can only punch with his normal human strength.
Even still, all Ant-Man would need to do is keep his dissed ants with the help of his insect confidence and devise another plan of ant-tack. Something Hank has no shortage of.
For instance, Ant-Man could alter Adam's size thanks to the Pym particle field he generates.
Yep.
Hank would just need to stall long enough to remove or disable Adam's biobelt, and he's had no trouble hacking enemy tech in the past.
But even with the biobelt busted, it wouldn't stop Adam's ability to shrink, since the white dwarf power is contained throughout his suit. Destroying the belt only meant that Ant-Man could alter Adam's size.
Whereas Hank has literally rewritten his own biology to prevent outside size alteration. And while Adam's abilities are definitely impressive, they are limited, and Ant-Man simply aren't, at least by comparison. Hank could always match Ray's size or just take the fight to the overspace where he would have the edge, both physically and mentally.
The overspace can mess with the human mind, but we've seen that Hank can handle it.
But if the Scientist Supreme is really so smart, why didn't he just immediately go up Adam's butt and blow him up from the inside?
What's wrong with you, Wiz? Aren't you a fellow man of science?
This is the meanest thing you've ever done to me.
Adam sized up Ant-Man, but in the end, he was the one who had to say, Uncle.
The winner is Ant-Man.
All right, I'm 1 for 1 right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We have a new Deathbattle releasing every 2 weeks this year. And click the join button to get new perks and extra content. Planet level members even see death battles before anyone else, so don't miss out.
Next time. Oh, we got the Dragonborn and the, oh god, what's, let's see here. Dark Souls versus Skyrim, Chosen Undead versus Dragonborn. Okay, so it's basically, and we're just gonna exit the full screen now, it's basically a fight I have little knowledge on. I don't play Skyrim, I never played Skyrim, and I certainly didn't play Dark Souls. So we'll see what we can do with that in terms of predicting stuff. But yeah, that was the Death Battle. That was a good fight. That was a great season opener. It's not, I think, in their top ones. I think things like Dante versus Bayonetta, and I'm just thinking of a couple other ones off the top of my head. Dante versus Bayonetta, I think, was a better fight. He-Man versus Lion-O was pretty fun. Mickey versus Yoda, I had some like animation issues with that fight. But otherwise, that was a good fight. But this is definitely a good start to the season. Definitely. This is a lot of people kind of get like just tired of the Marvel versus DC stuff, and to a degree, I can understand it because I mean, look, everything you just keep they're the classic versus matchups, but at the same time, you want more. There's so many other mediums you want to explore, and it's great when you can explore something outside of that, especially if you like DC and Marvel, but have them fight someone outside of a DC or Marvel fight, if you know what I mean. But look, when you do a good DC versus Marvel fight, give them props. And I think this is a great one. That death was brutal. Like, I was wondering, okay, how is this going to end? And the starts crawling out of it like, oh, dear Lord. That is a horrifying concept of a death. Hank Pym, like I said, Hank Pym is the baddest mother effer in the Marvel MCU and one of the best mother effers in the entire Marvel universe. All right, so starting off the year strong for Death Battle. Let's see if we can keep this momentum going. I'm going to do a little research for the Dark Souls one and the Skyrim one, and then I'll get back to you guys with a video for that. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. What did you think of the fight? Let me know in the comments below. See you later.